Well, welcome back. I'm Gary Schmidt. I'm a resident scholar here at the American Enterprise Institute, and as my colleague Tom Donnelly noted, we co-direct the Security Center here at AEI. But I also am the director of another program at AEI on what we call the Program on American Citizenship, which in various ways actually doesn't capture exactly what we do, but one of the things we have done over the last few years is worried about civic culture, and as a key component of that, we've spent a good deal of time thinking about the larger public's relationship with the military and the all-volunteer force, and of course veterans. So again, I'd like to join Tom in thanking Sally for but putting this together and letting us join in. So this panel is the happy panel. That's what we're going to do is talk about. So he's not very comfortable being happy, but we're going to focus on workforce reentry issues and some very novel programs and positive programs intended to assist veterans with reentering the workforce and civilian life. I'm going to go in reverse order of their speaking, so let me briefly introduce our panelists. Speaking last will be Michael Sarraille, who's a 19-year veteran, former Marine, Navy SEAL. Michael is finishing up his MBA at the University of Texas in Austin, and he's tries to keep the fact that he's also a Texas Aggie away from other people knowing that. Is the founder of Vetted, which is a very exciting new veteran service organization, which Michael is going to talk to us about. Speaking second is Thomas Meyer. Tom is the program director at the Philanthropy Roundtable for Veteran Services, and he's the co-founder of the Independence Project.
So I am the founder of Vetted. This is a initiative started in Texas, backed by Chancellor John Sharp of Texas A&M, Chancellor William McRaven, who you probably know as Admiral William McRaven, as well as Rice University, Wharton, and the state of Texas. We truly believe, having seen the talent in the military, that we can, as Dr. referred to as, raising the economic performance of the American private sector. We just have to cultivate the talent coming out of the military, give them the confidence to succeed in the private sector. And then we also act as a talent pool for corporations to come to get these amazing veterans coming out of the military. And lastly, there is so much information out there. Vetted is trying to simplify the transition process. I think the last I checked, there's roughly 50,000 veteran service organizations, and that is just cumbersome for veterans stepping out of the military to sort of wade through that information and simplify the process for him or her. So McCombs School of Business at UT and the Mays Business School conducted a lot of research when we started looking at the problems facing our veterans. If you're not familiar with the statistics, 70% of veterans struggle with the transition and finding employment within 12 months. On the flip side, 70% of HR managers admit that they have trouble translating how skills in the military refer or relate to the private sector. Also, veteran entrepreneurship is at 4%. That is down 45% since World War II. And then, as the gentleman referred to earlier, statistically around 3 veterans will have killed themselves by the end of this symposium, and the homeless rates amongst our veterans are climbing as well. And it's just not the veterans getting out at the 4-year mark. Even our top veterans, service academy graduates, are suffering and facing the systemic challenges during the transition. What we boiled it down to, based off the research we conducted, as well as the Center for a New American Security, is the top 3 challenges they face are, 1, the skills translation. And I think this just points to the great divide that we discussed at dinner last night between the new civilian sector and our very, very small veteran population. It's not ignorance. It's just you don't know what you don't know. And if you haven't served, it's very hard to conceptualize what we do in the military. The second is the perception of lack of hard skills amongst veterans. And I will tell you, the private sector is not totally wrong here. We are actually very honest with veterans. We are sort of a no-thrills organization, that you don't leave the military with these built-in private sector skills. We didn't do finance, we didn't do accounting, we didn't do operations or marketing, and we were stewards of money. We weren't makers of money, and that is a very difficult sort of paradigm shift to navigate. We actually give a financial intelligence test to a lot of the veterans that reach out to us, and the scores are low. And the only thing we do with that is, one, to humble them, that, hey, you need to learn a new skill, and it's okay. The skills we employed as military veterans were very unique. It was an art, and that's what made us successful. But there are a lot of soft skills that come out of the military that the private sector absolutely wants and can't cultivate amongst their civilian coworkers. Leadership development is a serious issue within the corporate world, and they're still sort of trying to figure out what the right solution is to cultivate leaders within their organizations. And then third is the mental stigma, and I'll be honest, we think, one, veterans have been overwhelmingly stereotyped into this broken warrior type mentality, and I think the narrative for the nation needs to change. Our own Secretary of Defense, Mattis, a few years ago, while was quoted as saying, while he doesn't refute PTSD, he believes in post-traumatic growth. That war makes us better fathers, mothers, brothers and sisters, more empathetic to man, and we need to focus on that narrative and remind veterans who they are and the amazing resiliency that they learned in the military, and the capability they have to affect the future and get engaged with society. So this is just one anecdote I like to show to sort of capture that divide, is the disconnect between veterans and the private sector. So interviewed a executive with an Austin-based consulting firm, and they had a veteran hiring initiative to hire 35 vets in 1 year. They were 34 short at the end of that year. And I like to say I pulled the BS card on that one and dug a little deeper. They said they just couldn't translate the resumes. And we had a great conversation, and I sort of questioned the legitimacy of their veteran hiring initiative, if that's the results that they produced. The other is a Navy lieutenant commander who was a subject matter expert, an intelligence analyst on Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. And it took him 1 year to find employment in Texas. Guy is brilliant, but he admit he had trouble translating his skills and how it affected the bottom line of the company he was interviewing with. So looking at the current transition solutions, of course we have the DoD Transition Assistance Programs, what we call TAPS. It's directed towards the mass transitioning population. So you could have Private Sarraille sitting next to Colonel Campbell, and we're receiving the same transition platform, which arguably we're going for very different jobs. Entry level, vice, hopefully a mid-level manager position towards an executive position. And I don't blame DoD, and none of us do. DoD is in the unique business of creating leaders and warriors, and a 2-week program is just not going to fit the bill. When you think about it, it took me about 1.5 to 2 years of training to learn how to do my job in the military. So it's a far cry from the 2 weeks that prepare me to enter the civilian sector. Others are these VSOs that run these 1 to 3 week programs, which I've been through a few of them. Well intended, but at the end of the day, too short and too broad in scope to leave the veterans with any tangible, marketable hard skills. And then, of course, the military headhunting firms that do a little resume translation, do some interview prep with the veterans, and then charge a headhunting fee as they find them jobs. The thing with the military headhunting firms is they focus mainly on JMOs, what we call junior military officers, the O3s, and they turn away a lot of the other veterans, which is the bulk of the veterans coming out, because they're not profitable. Now, if this slide is both confusing and gives you a headache, I've sort of achieved my desired effect. So this is from a base transition office, and this is actually only 2/3 of the flow diagram. I couldn't fit the entire thing on a PowerPoint slide. I want to identify the base, but this is ridiculous. And again, it goes back to my point about there's so much information out there that we need to simplify the process. Now, if you see in the upper left-hand corner, it says 18 to 24 months. So think if you handed this to a specialist in the Army, the overwhelming feeling he would get, it's almost, you'd want to give up right there. And what you're telling that specialist is he needs to start prepping his transition 2 years into his 4-year enlistment. I think we need to allow our veterans to focus on the jobs that they have overseas, of bringing their men and women home as well as themselves, and let us deal with the transition and let them know that we have their backs on the back end. Because this doesn't sort of convey that message. I'm still trying to figure it out, by the way. So why vetted? We are transforming proven military leaders into tomorrow's industry leaders and entrepreneurs by giving them the hard skills they lack. And like I said, we are trying to simplify the process. Our vision is really to create the first state platform in Texas, prove the hypothesis, the model, and then spread from there. We were already speaking with the state of Virginia Department of Veteran Services, who found out about us and want us to scale our programs to their state as well. And we create that talent pool. We create that best-in-class education for the scope of all our veterans, and we also want to reverse that downtrend in entrepreneurship. The process is 5 phases. Starts with the transition. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Is a 5-phase process starting with the transition preparation. The way I like to sort of analogize this is when you're done with your military career, whether it be 4 years or 20 years or 37, is you feel like you're 18 again, trying to figure out where your next passion is, and that's where we help in the first phase. Then we provide the education through a series of distance education and residence education, and then finally with career placement or veteran startup assistance. The key phase to all of this is really the follow-through, is staying in touch with the veterans, let them know that they have a support network, how they're succeeding within their sector, if they need to make an industry shift, and then, of course, collecting that data to improve the programs along the way. Give you a snapshot of the Veteran Accelerated Management Program, which focuses on E7s and above. There's very few programs for our senior enlisted. There's a lot for the E6s and below, but this is why we decided to start with the Veteran Accelerated Management Program. We are seeking VA certifications for this course. 1, for the sustainability and scalability across the nation. 2, because veterans need to have skin in the game. They need to learn very early on that nothing in the private sector is for free. And this is part of the expectation management that we deal with veterans. It's an approach of tough love. And these are problems that need to be dealt with by veteran hands. So after they're accepted into the program, they go through 5 months of distance education through Wharton. They hit all the business verticals from marketing, accounting, finance, operations, and it ends in a capstone. They also begin mentorship paired with business leaders through either American Corporate Partners or Veterati, which are 2 mentorship platforms specifically for veterans. And that is key. That is that one-on-one touch to work through whatever issues they may have, questions they may have, to identify what industry is right for them. Then they come in for 2 months of residence education. Right now the programs that we have are Texas A&M, UT, and Rice. These are at their business or their MBA schools. And they really get a MBA-style education within those 2 months. Monday through Wednesday in the classroom, and then Thursday through Friday, they're either part of a micro-consulting capstone project embedded in a company, solving some corporate problem, or they're working on their entrepreneurial capstone, which really assists with starting their own businesses. They will also receive more career services than an MBA student receives in his 2 years. So we're talking anywhere from 20 to 25 hours. Of course, LinkedIn, resume optimization, a lot of mock interviews, compensation and salary negotiation, something we've arguably never had to deal with, and we prepare them for that job search. Future programs are the Veteran Business Foundations Program, which is for E6s and below, mirrors the Veteran Accelerated Management Program. It's shorter in length, roughly 5 months, 3 months distance education, and 2 months at universities. Right now, this is being developed by Texas A&M San Antonio, Texas A&M Central Texas, which are located outside of Fort Hood and Joint Base San Antonio, and soon UTSA and University of Texas El Paso will get involved. Really, the 3 outcomes of that one is to show or to instill the confidence within our young veterans that they have the ability to succeed in that academic environment. The military is very progressive. 34% of all college students are the first in their family to attend college. 64% of veterans on the GI Bill are the first ones in their family to attend college. So, the military does a lot of good in terms of progressing society. We will also, if they decide not to go into the academic environment, place them in industry or assist with their startups as well. And then the industry-specific education is in partnership with organizations like Galvanize, General Assembly for IT-specific vocations, cybersecurity, web development, user design, digital marketing, things along those lines. Lastly, I end with this to end on a positive note. This isn't to say, hey, this is veterans versus civilians, but just to show the value of veterans, sort of the validation in industry. Former military CEOs within the S&P 500 outperform their counterparts in the S&P 500. Their tenure in the leadership positions is longer than their civilian counterparts. They statistically make more ethical decisions, and their leadership results in healthier cultures and stronger corporate performance. So the value is there. We just need to remind veterans that they have this possibility. They can have this outcome. They just need to put the work forward. A lot of it, at the end of the day, is expectation management and tough love with the veterans that we put through our programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.